Awesome. All right. Welcome. Welcome, Facebook. My name is Jennifer Hoprich, and I'm the facilitator for fourth trimester Arizona East Valley Village. We're back again this month with another amazing postpartum hack for you. Today, we're going to be talking with Michelle Lacey, who's the Director of Women's Health Innovations, and she's going to be sharing with us about boundary setting, healthy boundary setting in pregnancy, with care providers in the fourth trimester as well, even just in our personal lives with our families. So I'm really excited. I want to share with you really quickly just a little bit about who we are. Fourth Trimester Arizona was established to honor and support parents as they navigate the very real challenges and joys of parenthood, and to connect them with a community that embraces and supports them in parenting. We are the village into which Arizona families are born, and we aim to change the culture of parenting in our community so that no one has to do this alone. In our village, families are loved, they are seen as capable, and they belong. This is our time to be here for Arizona families, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over because I know we have so much to cover today, and I want to make sure we get every last drop. So Michelle, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Lacey. I'm the Executive Director for Women's Health Innovations of Arizona. We are an outpatient treatment center, and we specialize in the mental health needs around pregnancy, postpartum, and parenting. We use certified peer supports and licensed therapists. We provide counseling services, group services, peer support services, anything that can help support a family in this period of time, whether it's in pregnancy or in that postpartum period or in the early parenting time. We even see young children birth to 6. So I love to talk about boundaries because I think most people don't really understand what boundaries are. Oftentimes, based on our beliefs about boundaries, we believe they can be being rude or attach meaning to them that that's not actually accurate. And what ends up happening is we then get depleted if we don't have healthy boundaries. So what I'd like to do is go over kind of what boundaries are. And then I would love to hear from you guys about your ideas and thoughts and beliefs about boundaries or any questions you might have. So first of all, boundaries are limits. They basically tell others what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, especially in the perinatal period. I can't tell you how many moms I have a conversation with that say, and about, it's okay for you to say, I need to be taken care of right now. But a lot of times we put this responsibility on us that I have to figure things out. I have to do all, be all while I'm healing from in my perinatal period, or while I'm handing over my child in the NICU or for another procedure, but I'm trying to make sure everybody else is okay. And I need to be responsible, right? And if I say, hey, I need some space, I need to be cared for, I might put upon myself that I'm being selfish. But I want to start with saying, boundaries are very protective. We look at ourselves, mind, body, spirit. How do we protect ourselves, mind, body, spirit? It's those boundaries we put in place of what's okay, what's not okay. Who do we allow in? Who do we not allow in if they're emotionally safe or not safe? And I'm going to go into that a little bit more. We have boundaries can be hard to enact with others because we have a lot of boundary violators in our lives, and boundary violators do not like boundaries. So when we set a boundary, what will end up happening is they will push it and push it and push it to see how strong that boundary is. And that can cause us to also question ourselves. Am I something wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong here that they're pushing it? But a lot of times people don't really like boundaries. So just keep that in mind. So boundaries are emotional and physical space you need in order to be the real you without the pressure from others to be something that you are not. Just take that in for a moment. To be the real, authentic you. That comes from Celebrate Recovery, some of their curriculum. And without the pressure, think about that. How many times as parents do we feel like so much pressure to do and to be and to act on, or should? We do a lot of should. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. But boundaries can help us feel free of that pressure. And I think that's really important to understand, because then that impacts our overall emotional health. Healthy emotional and physical distance you can maintain between you and another, so that you don't become overly enmeshed or dependent. So there's this piece that can happen where I get so overly enmeshed or dependent upon another person, I can't tell where I begin and they end, or I can't tell where what my happiness is or what my desires are, and those things become dependent on another person. And that is a setup for a failure for sure, if I'm depending on someone else for my happiness. So let's look at the types of boundaries. I'm a visual person, so I love to give visuals all the time. So we can have really porous boundaries where basically we just let everybody in. So we're sitting at the grocery store and we're telling somebody our whole entire life story and then some. Or that's something that's happening to you, where you meet somebody and they're just telling you everything. And it feels maybe a little intrusive, but you're not quite sure what to do with it. It just feels uncomfortable. You don't really know the person. And in this section, it lets almost anyone get close to them. But think about that for a minute. It doesn't give us a time to determine if a person is safe, right? We like to think, if we're a nice person, we like to think other people are going to be like us, right? We're going to be nice and do the right thing. But unfortunately, what can happen is if we let everybody in really close, all of a sudden, there's no distinguishing what's healthy and what's not healthy, or what's safe and not safe. We might overly trust others. We might overshare our information, and then we get into this place of difficulty saying no. So then we have all that pressure being pushed onto us. We might take on other people's opinions and beliefs and not really understand our own. Well, what do I think and what do I feel about this right now? There's no room for that, because I've got so many people in my personal space, in my business, and I'm all in their business. And so I don't really know what my beliefs, my values are. And I might be very passive in my communication. So I might feel uncomfortable with something, but I'm not going to say, hey, no, here's my line, because everything's coming at me. And then you can have more rigid boundaries, and where nobody comes in and nothing's going out. This can feel very isolating and very alone, because it's the walls we build up around us, and it can come from having pain and trust issues from others. It can come from our trauma in the past. So we don't trust others. We question people's motives. We're guarded. We say no very quickly. Nope, nope, nope. We're not going to get no one's going to get close to me. So I could be in a room full of 1,000 people and feel very much alone and isolated. I will push others away. I'll avoid conflict. More inflexible. And then I might become more aggressive in my communication, because I am going to protect that line really at all costs. And that's not necessarily healthy either, because it puts a big disconnect between us and those healthy relationships that are in our lives. So healthy boundaries, they have space, so that we get to choose what comes in and what goes out. So we're selective in who we let in and who we let out. We take time in building trust with others. We share personal information in an appropriate manner. So I'm not telling the person I just met, my deepest, darkest secrets. We're going to grow, together and it's a give and take. The cornerstone of healthy relationships is trust, mutuality, which is that give and take, and respect. So if I say no, that boundary is respected. There's value in my own opinions and the other. So I'm not just taking someone's opinion as my, the law, or I'm not just trying to invoke my opinion on everything. I stand on my personal values, but I can adapt to other things, and I can communicate my needs more assertively. That's what healthy boundaries look like. So here you see it's dashes instead of, so we have control over what's coming in and what we choose to let out. But I love, the next one is what I really love to share with lots of people, because I think this is another way to kind of understand those boundaries. So when we think about our relationships, we can look at it as a bullseye. And when you think about what's in the center, so that's that closest to your heart, if we are lucky, we have 1 to 2 in that center, that inner circle there. And that's what we call, say, our best friends. These are those people where that core of that trust, respect, mutuality is in there. They know the deepest, darkest. We can be our authentic self. It's honored and respected. It's there's healthy communication. There's healthy conflict management. This is a relationship that's been around. It's been tried and true. It's been there. These are the people you call in the middle of the night when you have, and it's mutual that way. And so we go out, we can have our good friends. And if we're lucky, we have 3 to 4 of those. And those are people who they may know they're similar to the best friends, but maybe they don't know the deepest and the darkest. We spend time together, we have common values, we can communicate with one another. We have longevity with these people. We may have started out as just, acquaintances, and it's grown over time. These are people that we can rely on if we have a struggle. Our next level is the friends, neighbors, and coworkers. Now, these are people that we see regularly. They kind of know the comings and goings of our lives, but they may not know the feelings about it. So, for example, when my kids were both swimmers, the parents that they interacted with, they knew, like my daughter had some health issues. They knew her health issues. I didn't talk to them about my feelings about those health issues because they weren't really people that I knew well. We just had this commonality. We saw them often. We helped each other out. We carpooled, that kind of thing. They checked in when she had some procedure, or they checked in when to see how she was doing, and that was kind, and that they offered kindness there. Then we have associates or acquaintances. And so those of you with children that go to school, you'll have a lot of associates or acquaintances in the parents from your kids' class. So you have a commonality, but maybe you don't really know each other. You just know that your kids are in the same class. So you see them, you say, oh yeah, so excited the first day of school is starting, it's so hot, that kind of thing. And you have that commonality, but that's about the extent of what you're talking about. And then you have, at the very end, is this friendly service workers. So those are the people like at Fry's or the coffee shop you go to that you go, hey, yeah, it's really hot outside. And that's about it. How are you doing? Oh, good. That's nice. Oh, yeah, I got a lot of sales today. That's about the extent of it. Now, if you think about our relationships, our families, our systems, a lot of times family systems send those messages that if you're family, everybody should be in the best friends realm, right? Everybody should be here because we're family. I mean, I grew up with that message, blood is thicker than water. And not necessarily all family members are not necessarily safe, right? So sometimes we might have family members where we're like, you know what, I don't feel emotionally safe with this person. So I put them out here where I talk about the weather. And the family's like, hey, that's your dad, that's your uncle, that's your brother, that's your sister. You need to share everything with them. And you can say, no, that's not what I feel comfortable with. And I love Jen, how you said before we came on here, are you open to sharing? Because we're asking permission. In healthy relationships where there's boundaries, it's about asking permission. Things are not just put upon us. So sometimes we expect and we feel really guilty and awful if we don't have everybody in this inner circle that I think I should have in that inner circle. And it can tear us up inside. Sometimes we have had so much pain and sorrow that's gone untreated or untouched that we put everybody out in the friendly service workers. And so nobody gets close to us. And we can feel so isolated and so alone. And so when you guys think about these different categories, can you place various people in there, or were you expected to have everybody in the center? Or have you put everyone in the outside circles? Maybe you know someone that's been like that.
This is Kate. This is an interesting, this diagram, the one, I'm a visual person too. And it's interesting to think about my family of origin. My bachelor's is in family studies, and coming to mind is the family crucible, right? The expectation, the spoken expectation is so often different than the real, right? We were just talking about this. So the spoken expectation is that we're all family. We all trust each other. It's all safe. You know, you can tell me anything. We hear it now in parenting. Your kid should be able to tell you, and it's not true, and it isn't going to happen, and it's never going to happen, and it never has. And my mom doesn't know the deepest, darkest, and she won't ever, right? But the expectation was that they should, right? But the real is that all of my models, all of my parents, all of my step parents, anybody who was a parental figure, even my grandparents, kept most people in the friends, associates, lots of friendly social service workers, you know, people you play bridge with and make donuts with at church, and you do all of that, sort of somewhere between associates and acquaintances who check in and they know the comings and goings and who's getting married and who, all of that. But feelings and how does it make you feel, and what do you think about that, and what are you worried about, and what makes you happy, and where do you end, and another person, whatever the other person is, where do they begin? Never, ever, ever part of any kind of spoken or unspoken. So now, well, if I look at the previous diagram, I'm like, it's this scattershot all over the place. But the safest place when I go, holy crap, it's been a day or a month or whatever, is all the way over, like, and nobody's getting in, because either I've been, let down or hurt or disappointed or thought that something was real that wasn't, or was going to happen that didn't, or whatever. It just feels safer to be here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, that's what many of us do. And it feels so lonely and isolating. And so what we know is that when we have healthy relationships, when we feel disappointed or something didn't go the way we expected, in healthy relationships, in these inner circles, we can say, hey, that hurt my feelings when, or I'm really struggling with this, and it's heard. It may not be agreed upon, but it's like, wow, I didn't realize that I was hurting you in that way. So that's why we only have one or two in this inner circle. But it takes time. And so the thing that's really important, you bring up the expectations. The expectations that I have of the people that are in these inner circles are very different than the expectations I have of the people that are out here. So when my kids were little, if you were in here, I needed to trust you with my children, that you would care for my children as if they were your own. So really, very few, right? And the reality is, as you say, like there's disappointments or things come up. Sometimes there are people here and there is a violation of a boundary. They cross a line and we have to move them out. And that's okay too. And the other thing is that sometimes our family members are out here because maybe it's not safe. Maybe there's been some trauma or pain. Maybe what I have to share and if I'm talking about my feelings about something, if I share it with my family member, because I know like my family lives in New York, and man, I was amazed at how much information traveled across the country. Like you tell one person and the whole family knew, right? So sometimes we have to kind of begin to like evaluate who are these people in my life and how emotionally safe do I feel with them? And even though if the message from the family was, we're family, everybody's here, that doesn't necessarily mean I have to keep everybody here. I can say, you know, I have these two people here or these few people in this inner circle, because there's also this thing called the chosen family. And the chosen family might be biologically related, but it can be those people that you've lived life with, that you have longevity with, that have been there, that have walked alongside you through the greatest joys and the deepest sorrows. And that if one of them, if we say something out of line or we're reactionary, because we're all human, right? We can be reactionary. Then we can turn to them. They can say to us, hey, that wasn't okay. And they're like, you know what? You're right. I'm so sorry. That was out of line. That's healthy. That's healthy. Actually had something like that happen with one of my friends in this area. Made a comment about something and I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And then she came back with, you know what? I called her and she's like, you know what? That was totally out of line. But that took a long time for us to get to that place. So I think that part of the expectations is people think, oh, I'm going to meet somebody and we start hanging out and all of a sudden they're my best friends. And we're going to tell each other everything. We're going to be there for everything. But really there may be these friends, neighbors and coworkers. I had a lot of those when my kids were little. So if you think about, but here's the thing I also want you to hear is we are relational beings. We need relationships, but we need healthy relationships. So if a relationship is, if something happens within a relationship and you are not comfortable with that, and your body will tell you, you will have physical symptoms of that discomfort. You will have trust issues in that relationship. It's okay to trust that and say, this was my boundary that was overstepped. So for me, for example, my kids were little. I needed to trust you with my children. I had a friend who violated that boundary. And for me, it wasn't okay. And I verbalized that. And I said, you know what? This was not okay for me. And this is not okay for my family. And so I think we need to take space. Now, some people would say, gosh, that's rude. And okay, but I get to determine what's okay and what's not okay for me, right? And as moms, as parents, we get to choose what we believe is safe for me and our family. And some people, when we have no boundaries, when we have those porous boundaries where, let me go back, where everything's coming through If I were to say to someone in that dynamic, hey, this is not okay, and I need to have some space from you, they would be like, you're being rude. Gosh, you're being so mean. And that's okay. They can think that. I get to choose what's okay for me. Because remembering what boundaries are, it's what I believe is acceptable, what limits I have emotionally, physically, spiritually. I have had 2 conversations with excuse me, with pregnant women in the last 2 days about their postpartum plan. And I am so sorry. And having to say to them, it's okay for you to say, if you're going to come visit, I'm not entertaining you. And in the postpartum, and the pressure, the look of, really, I can say that is amazing, because we get to take, it is okay. Boundaries are a way we take care of ourselves. So we talk about self-care all the time with parents. It's not going and get your nails done or massage. While that's nice, self-care is also implementing boundaries in which I feel safe, and implementing boundaries and saying that what is okay and what is not okay for me. And a lot of people have a hard time with boundaries, so you will have a lot of pushback from people at first. I'd love to hear more from you guys on questions or reactions. Keeping in mind, those rings, they're very fluid. So people come in and people go out. As dynamics change, as circumstances change, as relationships change, they can be very fluid. So it's not rigid. And thinking about, if we know where people sit, then we can have appropriate expectations of them and ourselves. And when we get upset with someone and frustrated, oftentimes it's because we have unrealistic expectations of those people.
Yeah, that's one thing, Michelle, that I was thinking of. Of course, I work with families that are postpartum or they're pregnant, planning for their postpartum, like you were mentioning. And a lot of times the moms will share that they want to communicate healthy boundaries. They want to say, like, if you're going to come over, then you need to bring a meal, or things like that. But they're afraid that if they say those things, that they are going to lose the support entirely, that the person is going to be offended. Like, when you had the first diagram of the loose boundaries, perhaps that person doesn't recognize that they are a person who has the loose boundaries. And, that person may not already understand what healthy boundaries are. So how can someone communicate healthy boundaries with someone else without risking that relationship? Or how would you coach someone on how to do that?
That's a great question. I get that a lot too. I think it's important to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with that, but hey, here's this. So I often coach people that if you have people in your life that are kind of what we call boundary violators, especially in the postpartum period, have tasks for them to do. Like, hey, here's my list of things, and communicate it as, gosh, I'm really, like, there's so much that I need help on, and here's my list. Would you be willing to choose one of these to, maybe help out? That would be helpful, so helpful. So then you're still setting the boundary, and you're giving ideas of what is acceptable and not acceptable for you. Like, I had one mom share with me that during her postpartum period, a family member came over and just wanted to hold the baby the entire time and pretty much expected mom to wait on her. And so what I said to her to do was, okay, I'm so glad you want to hold the baby. Thank you so much. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to go rest for a little bit. So you want to hold the baby? Great. But this is what I am going to go do. And they don't have to like it. See, I think the problem is that we say, when we set boundaries, we say, oh my gosh, they're not going to like it. And oh my gosh, what if that makes the relationship bad? They don't have to like the boundaries. And the reality of it is is it's if it does make the relationship bad, then that's not necessarily a bad thing either, because when we don't have boundaries, we have so much pressure on ourselves to do all and be all. And what ends up happening is mom feels responsible for everybody else. And that's not fair to mom as she's healing, as she's figuring out how to feed her baby, as she's sleep deprived, as she's trying to manage other children in the home as well. That's unfair to her. So I would say always giving a task. I joke about this. We had a family dynamic one time when it was a very emotional time. We had a loss in our family, and we had lots of family members coming in, and that was one of the best things for me to do, to be able to protect some of that emotional space, was to say, hey, I'm so glad you're here. Because again, people want to be needed, and we can give affirmation. Here's something I really need help on. Could you do this? It's also the way we communicate it, right? So we communicate effectively, and that helps the dynamic. We get to choose what we feel comfortable with and not. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Any other thoughts or questions or reactions?
I'm remembering when I was right after it was before I had my son. So this was the first baby, not the first grandchild for my mom and dad, but my first baby. And they'd induced me at 39 weeks for whatever reason, but it didn't work. And so I came home carrying the baby bag full of stuff, Pitocin running all over the place, no baby, no contractions, and just the mix of every shitty emotion like ever. And here's my mom, let's go for a walk. And I was like, oh no, I don't even want to see your face right now. I don't want to hear your voice. Don't do whatever it is you think you should do, want to do, need to do, whatever, to make me feel better. The only thing that will make me feel better is to have this baby, not to have you watch me. And it was the most challenging time. And I was in Pine Top. Small little house. She thankfully was not staying with us, had her own house, but it was like, it got to the point when I said, no, I don't want to go on the walk. It was like, okay, here's my line. I can't be in the same space with you and be civil. Like, I didn't say those words, but that's where I was.
Mm-hmm.
She packed her stuff and said, fine, I will just leave, and your kids can come visit me just like everybody else's kids go visit their grandparents. She just left. And I ended up being in this space of, what the hell did I just do? So that's my gut reaction to boundary violators, when we're finally to the, I can't do that. And we say it to someone who's supposed to be 100% supportive of everything we ever say, and they're not. And
correct.
Ew.
That's why I love that. That's why when we do our postpartum wellness planning of who's your support people, everyone's like, oh, my mother-in-law. And I will say, I understand that that's our automatic reaction, but are they going to be really supportive? And it's okay to say, no, who's going to be there emotionally for me? What do I need? What's my value? What do I need in this moment? Let me ask this of all of you. How hard is it for you to say, this is what I need? This is what I want?
Super, super hard. Even now.
Can't. You asked me that in chat, and honestly, I don't know.
Right, because we're kind of I don't want to say trained, but we get the message that if we speak up of what we need or what we want, we're being rude, we're not being accommodating. But let me just put it this way. Motherhood is the hardest thing we will ever do. This is one of the most vulnerable times of our lives. When we have medically involved children, there's nothing like having to hand our children over. There's nothing like that. We have the right to say, here's what I need. Here's what I want. I don't need this right now. So there's no secrecy in this. My dad and I, we fixed our relationship before he passed away. So I'm just going to remedy with that. But my dad and I didn't have a great relationship. When my son was having his second heart surgery and he wanted to be there, I was like, you know what? You can be there, but here's what the boundaries are. Hadn't heard that before, right? So, but for me, because of just the pain of the circumstances and knowing what that circumstance was like, I needed to have people around me that I knew weren't going to take from me, because it wasn't about them at that moment. It was about my kid and my feelings, my husband's feelings about what was going on. It's okay to say that. It is okay because our boundaries reflect our values. So if my value is I want to have emotional health right now, I have to set that boundary that's going to help me have that emotional health. And trying to take care of everybody else and be responsible for everybody else while I'm dealing with this, whether it's my perinatal period or handing over my kid, and that's not going to allow me to be the healthiest emotionally. It's going to stress me out. So we have to start back with that's why I say, what do you need? I say this to all of my clients. What are your greatest needs right now? Okay. And then people look at me like, what? Wait, nobody asks me that, right? If we're independent, if we are strong women, we're like, yeah, let's just do, we do. But it's okay to say, here's what I need. And now, where do I get that? Who do I have in my life that brings me that? So I know, like, as I said, like being a medical mom, and there's stuff going on with my kids, and my kids are adults now, but they're in their 20s, they're kids. And when I have stuff going on with them, I know who I can rely on. I know those people, and it brings a sense of comfort and confidence that is so different than that pressure to please everybody else. Make sense? But it's hard, right? It's hard. So my challenge would be for everyone to think about, what do I want? And what do I need given what I'm dealing with right now? Because let's face it, life can be utterly chaotic, and then it can be good, and it could be chaotic. We go like this, right? And sometimes the hills and valleys aren't as deep, but then sometimes the hills and valleys are really deep. Part of our own emotional well-being is to really understand what I need during those times. And then who are those people within my life that I can communicate those needs to? Because there's a lot of those that will push their own stuff on you, which is kind of what you're describing there, Kate, which is mom made it about her. You're 39 weeks pregnant and hormones all over the place trying to have this baby, and she made it about her, which people do that because that's how we are as humans. That's human nature. It's maybe not done out of malice. It's done because we all have stuff.
Right. No, not done out of malice, and you can know that.
It still doesn't make
in the moment, you can know that, but you're still like, I begin to feel like I have this split personality. I'm like, I get that you want to be supportive and that you love me, and I get that. I am also so overwhelmed and cannot handle you right now.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to be, the loving, I do everything and I can handle everything kind of a person. And I can't do this right now. And it's like this internal, you got to pick one or the other. You can't have both kind of a thing. And to protect myself, you got to pick that I'm not going to do this right now. But the cost of that is sometimes the cost is too high. Like, you're not protecting yourself if you say no, ultimately, because of the cost of all this other guilt and shame and whatever the other trauma stuff, right?
So who are the other people that are going to say, when you say, I can't do this right now, they say, okay.
So right now I have a much huger group, many of whom are on this call, including you, but 15 years ago.
Right.
And I didn't even have Deanne.
Oh, wow.
Part of why, and this is my story to share it, part of why Healthy Steps of Deanne is in Northeastern Arizona now is because I had no one, there was no one who I could say, I'm in a high-risk pregnancy and I've had all these freaky high-level ultrasounds down in Tucson and put me on bed rest, and I don't have maternity coverage because it's not part of my health plan, and this is cash pay. Like, nobody. And then I had this baby who ended up having acid reflux and asthma, and had to stop breastfeeding at 4 months. Cold turkey, had mastitis on both sides, went through every single formula known to man, didn't qualify for WIC, cash pay for all of it, and nobody. And so it wasn't until I ended up inpatient at Phoenix Children's with him as Failure to Thrive, when my aunt said to her string, which included Deanne, okay, my niece is in the hospital. We're having a hard time with the baby. She needs some help. And that's when Deanne came and sat on the floor. And I learned what Healthy Steps was. And let me tell you, that's why it is what it is now. But without that, you could be a mom with a bachelor's and well prepared and think you've got it together because you're doing early intervention and working with parents and kids, and have nobody, including a husband who's like, I don't even know what to say to you.
Right.
And I don't want to be part of this. I'm not part of this weird whole emotional stuff. I don't.
Yeah.
So
another part of it too, then in healthy boundaries, is being able to assertively communicate. Listen, this is what I need.
right.
This is what I like, because when you said that, I was thinking about, so I have my husband, when my son had his first surgery, when he was born, we found out he needs surgery. And my husband was in total denial until we were at 9 months postpartum, sitting in the surgeon's office, when he finally realized, oh yeah, this kid's going to have surgery. And he's a great guy. So when the second surgery came around, we were driving back from Phoenix Children's, and I said, listen, you cannot do what you did last time because I can't handle that. So figure it out, go talk to someone, do something. But I need you to be like not in denial this time. And he knows who I am, so he got it. Like, he's a good guy. But being that direct, some people will think like, ooh, I can't be that direct. Yes, you can. And so some of this part of being able to have healthy boundaries is learning how to assertively communicate. And that might be the next conversation we all have in this sort of village, is what gets in the way. That's really what it is. I mean, we don't need to talk about how to assertively communicate. It's what gets in the way of us communicating assertively. What is the fear, the barrier that causes us to say, oh, I can't say that.
So great. Well, I think, I wanted to see, Michelle, if there's anything else as far as the slides for the Facebook Live, because I think we have some people who want to ask some questions, but off of the Facebook Live. So
Sure.
how do you feel about that?
Yeah, go ahead, right? Yeah, I dealt with all the slides, the expectations piece of it. So whatever questions there are, let's have it.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for this. And so if people want to know more and they want to connect with you, we'll put your information for Women's Health Innovations in the comments for our Facebook Live. So we're going to pop off of Facebook Live now to go back privately to our Zoom. And anybody who's watching on Facebook Live, you can always come into our Zoom. We have a private time before and after we go on live on Facebook. So everyone and anyone is welcome to join into our private Zoom as well each and every time that we get together. So thank you to everyone who's watching live. We're going to pop off to do our private Zoom now.